The cold morning air bit at Daeho Kim's face as he walked through the snow toward the leopard enclosure. His boots crunched on the frozen ground with each step. The Siberian wilderness was quiet except for the wind moving through the tall pine trees. Daeho had been working at the research station for 3 years now. The place was far from any city, hidden deep in the forest where few people ever came. He liked it that way. After his time in the Korean Special Forces, he wanted peace. He wanted to help save something instead of destroy it. "Good morning, Baram." He called softly to the large spotted cat watching him from behind the fence. Baram was an Amur leopard, one of the last of his kind in the world. Daeho had found him as a tiny cub 3 years ago, half dead in the snow. His mother had been killed by poachers. Now Baram was fully grown, weighing over 60 kilograms of pure muscle and deadly grace. The leopard's yellow eyes followed Daeho as he unlocked the gate. Most people would be afraid to go inside with such a dangerous animal. But Daeho and Baram had a special bond. They understood each other. "Hungry today?" Daeho asked, pulling chunks of fresh meat from his bag. Baram approached slowly, his huge paws making no sound on the snow. He took the meat gently from Daeho's hand, careful not to bite the fingers that fed him. Even though he was a wild animal, he knew this human was his friend. Daeho scratched behind Baram's ears. The leopard's purr was deep and loud, like a small engine running. This was Daeho's favorite part of each day. In the army, he had been trained to kill. Here, he was helping something beautiful stay alive. The research station housed 12 leopards in total. They were part of a breeding program to save the species from extinction. Only about 100 or more leopards remained in the wild. Every single one was precious. Daeho's radio crackled to life from his belt. "Daeho, come to the main building, now." The voice belonged to Dr. Petrov, the Russian scientist who ran the station. Something in the doctor's voice made Daeho's old soldier instincts wake up. He gave Baram one last scratch and headed toward the main building. The leopard watched him go, those intelligent eyes seeming to sense that something was wrong inside the building. Dr. Petrov was standing in front of a large television screen. His face was pale and his hands were shaking. On the screen, a news reporter was speaking quickly in Russian. "What's happening?" Daeho asked. "Look at this." Dr. Petrov pointed at the screen. "They're showing footage from Moscow, Beijing, New York, ships in the sky." Huge ships. Daeho stared at the screen. The images were impossible to believe. Massive dark ships hung in the air above major cities around the world. They were bigger than anything humans had ever built. They looked like nothing from Earth. "Aliens," Dr. Petrov whispered. "Real aliens." The news switched to footage from Seoul. Daeho's heart stopped. His home city was under one of the giant ships. The vessel was so large it cast a shadow over half the city. Then the ships started shooting. Beams of blue light came down from the ships. Where they hit, buildings exploded. Military bases disappeared in flashes of light. The reporter's voice became more urgent and frightened. "They're attacking everywhere at once?" Dr. Petrov said. "Moscow, Beijing, Washington, London, Tokyo, all the major cities." Daeho felt his soldier training take over. His mind became calm and focused. "Are they jamming communications?" "Some channels are still working, but not for long, I think." The television showed more footage. Strange vehicles were coming down from the ships. They looked like tanks, but they floated in the air instead of rolling on tracks. Soldiers in strange armor were marching through the streets. "We need to contact the outside world while we still can," Daeho said. "Find out what's happening." Dr. Petrov nodded and turned to his radio equipment. He began trying different frequencies, searching for any signal from the outside world. After an hour of searching, they found a weak signal. A woman's voice came through the static. "This is Major Sujin Park of the Korean Communications Division. If anyone can hear this, please respond. We are organizing resistance cells. The alien forces are calling themselves the Vorthok Empire. They say they're here to integrate humanity into their galactic order." Daeho grabbed the radio microphone. "Major Park, this is Daeho Kim, former Korean Special Forces. I'm at a research station in Siberia. Thank God, Sujin's voice came back. We need all the help we can get. The aliens have superior technology, but they're not attacking remote locations yet. They're focused on population centers and military targets. What do you know about them? Deho asked. They're conducting what they call biological resource assessments. They're cataloging Earth's animals and plants. We think they're planning to take specimens back to their homeworld. Deho felt a chill that had nothing to do with the Siberian. Cold, he thought about Baram and the other leopards. These aliens weren't just here to conquer humans. They wanted to steal Earth's wildlife too. How long do we have? He asked. Unknown. Their ground forces are moving slowly, systematically. They seem to have all the time in the world, but eventually they'll reach every corner of the planet. Dr. Petrov tapped Deho's shoulder. The leopards, he whispered. If they're taking animals ... double quote. Deho nodded. The research station housed some of the last Amur leopards on Earth. The aliens would definitely want them. Major Park, Deho said. Into the radio. I'll stay in contact. If you need anything, let me know. Understood. Be careful out there. These aliens are not to be underestimated. The radio went quiet except for static. Deho walked to the window and looked out at the leopard enclosures. Baram was pacing back and forth, his powerful body moving with liquid grace. The leopard's head was raised, sniffing the air. Even from this distance, Deho could see the tension in the animal's posture. He knows something's wrong, Dr. Petrov said quietly. Animals can sense things we can't, Deho replied. The question is, what are we going to do about it? Outside. Snow began to fall again. The forest was still and quiet, but Deho knew that wouldn't last. The aliens would come eventually. When they did, they would want to take everything that made Earth special. Deho thought about his years in the army, about all the training and tactics and survival. He had hoped never to use those skills again, but now it looked like he might. Have to, he looked at Baram again. The leopard was still pacing, still sensing danger in the air. Don't worry, old friend, Deho whispered. I won't let them take you. But even as he said it, he wondered if that was a promise he could keep. 3 days passed without any sign of the aliens. Deho kept the radio on all the time, listening to the scattered reports from around the world. The news was always bad. More cities had fallen, more military bases had been destroyed. The aliens seemed unstoppable, but the research station remained quiet. Too quiet, Deho noticed that Baram was acting strange. The leopard would not eat properly. He paced around his enclosure all day and all night. His yellow eyes were always looking at the forest, watching for something. The animals know, Dr. Petrov said as they watched Baram through the window. All of them are nervous, the bears, the wolves, even the birds. They can sense danger coming. Deho nodded. In the army, he had learned to trust his instincts. Right now, his instincts were screaming that something was wrong. On the 4th day, his fears came true. Deho was feeding the leopards when he heard a sound in the sky. It was not like any aircraft he knew. The sound was deep and humming like a giant bee. He looked up and saw 3 dark shapes moving through the clouds. Dr. Petrov, he shouted. They're here. The Russian scientists ran outside just as the alien ships landed in the clearing next to the research station. They were smaller than the giant ships from the news, but still bigger than any human vehicle. They were black and smooth, with no visible engines or wheels. Doors opened on the sides of the ships. Soldiers walked out. Deho had seen pictures of the aliens on the news, but seeing them in person was different. They were tall and thin, with pale gray skin and large black eyes. They wore dark armor that looked like it was made from some kind of metal. Each soldier carried a weapon that glowed with blue light. The alien leader was taller than the others. He had marks on his armor that looked like rank symbols. He approached the main building while his soldiers spread out around the station. Humans, the alien leader said in perfect English. I am Commander Zephyr of the Vorthic Empire. You will not resist. We are here to conduct a biological assessment of your facility. Dr. Petrov stepped forward with his hands raised. We are scientists. We mean no harm. Harm is not relevant, Commander Zethver replied. We have detected rare biological specimens at this location. These specimens will be collected for study and preservation. Deho felt his blood turn cold. They wanted the leopards. The animals here are endangered, Dr. Petrov said. They are the last of their kind. If you take them, the species will die. Out. The species will be preserved in our biological archives, the commander said. This is more than your primitive civilization could achieve. 2 alien soldiers walked toward the leopard enclosures. Deho wanted to stop them, but he knew their weapons would kill him before he could take 2 steps. Baram was in the first enclosure they reached. The leopard was crouched low, his ears flat against his head. A deep growl came from his throat. Impressive specimen, one of the soldiers said. Adult male, perfect condition. The soldier raised his weapon, but instead of firing, he adjusted a setting on the side. Blue light came out, but it was different from the deadly beams they had seen on the news. This light was meant to stun, not kill, but Baram was faster than the alien expected. The leopard moved like lightning. One moment he was crouched by the fence, the next he was flying through the air. His powerful legs launched him over the fence. In a single leap, he landed on the alien soldier before the creature could react. The soldier's scream was cut short as Baram's jaws closed around his throat. The alien's weapon fell to the ground, forgotten. Kill the beast! Commander Zethver shouted. The other soldiers turned their weapons toward Baram, but the leopard was already moving. He released the dead soldier and rolled behind a tree. Blue beams of light burned the air where he had been a second before. Deho watched in amazement as Baram began to hunt the aliens. The leopard moved through the forest like a ghost. He would appear behind one soldier, strike with claws and teeth, then disappear before the others could aim their weapons. The aliens had advanced technology, but they had never faced anything like an Amur leopard. Baram was built for hunting. Every muscle, every instinct, every movement was designed for one purpose: to kill. In 5 minutes, 3 alien soldiers were dead. The survivors were backing toward their ships, firing wildly at shadows in the trees. Impossible, Commander Zethver said. It's just an animal, but Deho knew better. Baram was not just any animal. He was a predator who had learned to survive in the harshest environment on Earth. More importantly, he was a predator who remembered the humans who had killed his mother. He remembered the hunters who had tried to trap him. He remembered every threat, every enemy, every danger he had ever faced, and now he had a new enemy to remember. Commander Zethver and his remaining soldiers reached their ships. They climbed inside quickly, sealing the doors behind them. The ships lifted off the ground and flew away, leaving their dead behind. Deho ran to the edge of the forest. Baram, here, boy! The leopard emerged from behind a tree. His fur was stained with alien blood, but he was not hurt. He walked to Deho and rubbed against his legs, purring softly. Good boy, Deho whispered, scratching behind Baram's ears. You saved us all. Dr. Petrov joined them, his face pale with shock. They'll be back, he said, with more soldiers. More weapons. I know, Deho replied. But now they know we're not helpless. He looked down at Baram. The leopard was cleaning his claws with his tongue, as calm as if he had just caught a rabbit instead of killing 3 alien soldiers. They made one mistake, Deho said. They thought we were just humans and animals. They didn't know that some of us are warriors. That night, Deho contacted Major Sujin Park on the radio. He told her what had happened at the research station. A leopard killed 3 of them? Sujin's voice was full of disbelief. These aliens have never faced Earth's predators, Deho explained. They're used to fighting wars with technology. They don't understand what it means to be hunted by something that was born to kill. This could be important, Sujin said. If their soldiers can be killed by Earth animals, maybe they're not as tough as we thought. There's something else, Deho said. The way Baram fought. He wasn't just acting on instinct, he was thinking, planning. He remembered which soldiers had weapons, which ones were dangerous. He targeted them first. You're saying the leopard was using tactics? I'm saying he's smarter than the aliens gave him credit for, and he doesn't forget his enemies. After the radio call, Deho walked outside to check on the leopards. All of them were awake and alert, sensing the danger that had come and gone. Bahram was standing at the fence of his enclosure, looking out at the forest. His yellow eyes glowed in the moonlight. He was still watching, still waiting. They'll come back, Deho said softly. Are you ready for them? Bahram turned his head toward Deho and made a low sound in his throat. It was not a growl or a purr, it was something else. Something that sounded almost like a promise, the leopard remembered. His enemies now, and when they returned, he would be waiting. For 2 weeks after the alien attack, the research station was quiet. Too quiet. Deho knew the aliens would return, but he did not know when or how many would come. During those 2 weeks, something strange happened. Bahram disappeared. Every morning, Deho would check the leopard's enclosure and find it empty. The fence was not broken. The gate was still locked. But Bahram was gone. How does he get out? Dr. Petrov asked. I don't know, Deho replied, but he always comes back at night. It was true. Every evening, Bahram would be back in his enclosure, sleeping peacefully. His fur would be clean, his stomach full. He looked healthy and strong, but sometimes there were strange things. Sometimes Bahram's paws were muddy. Sometimes there were scratches on his fur that looked like they came from fighting. And sometimes Deho could smell something on the leopard's breath that was not from the meat he fed him. On the 15th day, Deho got his answer. He was walking through the forest when he found the first alien body. It was one of the Vorthak soldiers, but not from the group that had visited the station. This soldier had different markings on his armor. He was part of a patrol. The soldier had been killed by claws and teeth. 4 long cuts across his throat, the work of a big cat. Bahram, Deho whispered Dot. He followed the tracks in the snow. They led him to 2 more bodies, then 3 more. All killed the same way, all alien soldiers. The tracks showed him the story. A patrol of 6 aliens had been moving through the forest. They had been walking in a line, their weapons ready. They thought they were safe, but Bahram had been watching them, learning their patterns. Studying their movements, the leopard had attacked the last soldier first, the one at the back of the line. He had killed him silently, then dragged the body into the bush. The other soldiers had not even noticed. One by one, Bahram had picked them off. He had used the forest like a weapon, appearing and disappearing like a ghost. By the time the aliens realized they were being hunted, it was too late. Deho followed the tracks back to the research station. He found Bahram waiting for him at the gate of his enclosure. The leopard's yellow eyes looked directly at him as if to say, I have been protecting our territory. You've been hunting them? Deho said softly. You've been keeping them away from us. Bahram made a low sound in his throat. Not a growl, not a purr, something between the two. Something that sounded like agreement. That night, Deho's radio crackled to life. But the voice was not Major Sujin Park, it was someone new. This is Young-Soo Lee, former tank commander, Korean Army. Is anyone out there? Deho grabbed the radio. This is Deho Kim. I'm at a research station in Siberia. Thank God, I've been watching your location through binoculars for 3 days. I saw what happened to the alien patrol. Did you do that? Not me, Deho said. My friend did. Your friend? It's complicated. Are you alone? No, I have 2 others with me. We're building a resistance cell. We've been looking for a safe place to set up a base. The next morning, 3 people came walking through the forest. Young-Soo Lee was a big man with short gray hair and steady hands. Behind him came Haijin Choi, a woman with sharp eyes and a backpack full of equipment. The third person was Minho Kang, a young man with a radio on his back. So where is this friend who killed 6 alien soldiers? Young-Soo asked. Deho pointed to Bahram's enclosure. The leopard was lying in the sun, looking perfectly peaceful. That's a leopard, Haijin said. That's Bahram, Deho replied. And he's not just any leopard. To prove his point, Deho made a series of hand signals. Bahram immediately stood up and walked to the fence. Daeho made another signal. The leopard sat down. Another signal, and Baram lay down and rolled over. Impressive, Young-Soo said. But can he really fight aliens? He's killed 9 of them so far, Daeho said. 3 here at the station, 6 more in the forest. He's been patrolling our territory, keeping us safe. Minho adjusted his radio equipment. I've been listening to alien communications. They're calling this area Zone of the Ghost Hunter. They've lost contact with 2 patrols in the past 2 weeks. They're afraid, Haijin said with a smile. Good. It's more than that, Daeho explained. Baram is learning. Every time he fights them, he gets better. He remembers their tactics, their weaknesses, their mistakes. He's becoming the perfect hunter. Young-Soo looked thoughtful. In the army, we used to say that the best weapon is the one your enemy doesn't expect. They have tanks and energy weapons, but they don't understand what it means to be hunted by something that was born to kill. Exactly, Daeho said. And there's something else. Baram doesn't just hunt randomly. He's strategic. He targets their patrols, their scouts, their communications. Equipment. He's cutting off their information. Haijin opened her backpack and pulled out maps and electronic devices. I'm a former military engineer. I've been studying alien technology. Their equipment is advanced, but it has weaknesses. What kind of weaknesses? Daeho asked. Their sensors are designed for their homeworld. They don't work well in our forests. Too much interference from plants and animals. That's why your leopard can get so close to them. Minho looked up from his radio. I've been intercepting their reports. They're frustrated. They keep losing soldiers, but they can't find the enemy. Some of them think this area is haunted. Perfect, Young-Soo said. Fear is a weapon too. If we can make them afraid to come here, we can control this territory. But they will come back, Dr. Petrov said. Eventually they will send more soldiers, maybe hundreds. Then we need to be ready, Daeho said. All of us. He looked at Baram, who was watching the conversation with intelligent eyes. The leopard seemed to understand that these new humans were allies, not enemies. Baram has been fighting alone, Daeho continued. But what if he wasn't alone? What if we could work together? Human tactics and animal instincts? Young-Soo smiled. Now you're talking my language. In tank warfare, we call it combined arms. Different weapons working together. Can you really communicate with him? Haijin asked. Daeho nodded. We've been together for 3 years. He understands hand signals, voice commands, even facial expressions. More than that, he trusts me, and I trust him. This could work, Minho said. The aliens are overconfident. They think they're fighting primitive humans. They have no idea what they're really up against. That evening, the group sat around a fire outside the research station. Baram lay nearby, his eyes reflecting the flames. He was calm now, but alert, always alert. The way I see it, Young-Soo said, we have something the aliens don't have. We have a perfect predator who knows this territory better than they do. And, we have humans who know how to fight. More than that, Daeho said, we have trust. Baram and I have been through everything together. He saved my life, and I saved his. That's a bond they can't break with all their technology. Haijin looked at the leopard. He's beautiful. And terrifying. He's a warrior, Daeho said simply. Just like us. As if he understood, Baram raised his head and made that low sound in his throat. The sound that meant he was ready to fight, the sound that meant he remembered every enemy he had ever faced, and he was ready to face them again. The plan started with a name, Operation Silent Fang. Young-Soo drew maps on the ground with a stick while the others watched. The aliens always move in the same patterns, he said. 3 patrols every day, morning, afternoon, and night. They follow the same routes through the forest. They think they're being smart, Haijin added, but they're being predictable. Daeho looked at Baram, who was lying nearby. The leopard's ears were pointed forward, listening to every word. Sometimes Daeho wondered how much the big cat actually understood. The problem is their numbers, Minho said, adjusting his radio. My intercepts show they're sending bigger patrols now, 8 soldiers instead of 6. And they're carrying heavier weapons. That's where Barum comes in, Deho said. He doesn't need to fight all of them at once. He just needs to make them afraid, Young-Soo smiled. Psychological warfare? I like it. The first part of the plan was simple. Barum would continue his hunting, but now he would have human help. Deho would scout ahead and use hand signals too. Tell the leopard where the aliens were. Haijin would plant small explosives to create distractions. Minho would jam their communications so they couldn't call for help, but they needed to test something first. We need to know how smart they really are, Young-Soo said, and how much they understand about Earth animals. The answer came 3 days later when a new voice appeared on Minho's radio intercepts. This is Intelligence Analyst Jiwoo Nam, Korean Army. I've been listening to your communications. Are you the group in Siberia? Yes, Minho replied. How did you find us? I've been tracking alien communications across the region. Your area keeps coming up in their reports. They're calling it a high-priority threat zone. Can you join us? Deho asked. Already on my way. I have important information about alien psychology. Jiwoo arrived the next morning. She was a small woman with quick eyes and a laptop computer. The first thing she did was ask to see Barum. Magnificent, she said, watching the leopard through the fence. And the aliens have no idea what they're dealing with. What do you mean? Deho asked. I've been studying their communications and behavior patterns. The Vorthak come from a world with very different predators. They have pack hunters like wolves, but much larger. They also have huge prey animals that fight with horns and thick armor. But no ambush predators? Young-Soo guessed. Exactly. Number. Cats, no snakes. No creatures that hunt alone using stealth and intelligence. The concept is completely foreign to them. Jiwoo opened her laptop and showed them alien text she had translated. Look at these reports. They keep describing the attacks as impossible and unnatural. They can't understand how one creature can appear and disappear so easily. They think it's magic, Haijin laughed. In a way it is, Deho said. Barum has been perfecting his hunting skills for 3 years. Every day in the forest, learning to move without sound, to see without being seen. To them, he must seem like a ghost. That afternoon, they put Operation Silent Fang into action. Minho intercepted an alien patrol route. 8 soldiers would be moving through the forest at sunset, following the river toward the research station. Deho and Barum took position first. The leopard moved through the trees like flowing water, making no sound at all. Deho followed. At a distance, staying connected by hand signals they had practiced for years, Young-Soo and Haijin set up in positions around the patrol route. Jiwoo stayed at the research station with Minho, monitoring alien communications. The aliens came exactly when predicted. 8 tall figures in dark armor, carrying glowing weapons. They moved in formation, professional and alert, but they were looking for human enemies. They were not prepared for what was really hunting them. Barum struck first. The leopard dropped from a tree branch onto the last soldier in the line. His claws raked across the alien's neck before he could scream. The soldier fell silently into the snow. The other aliens did not notice at first. They kept walking, unaware that their group was now 7 instead of 8. Deho gave Barum the signal to wait. The leopard melted back into the forest, invisible among the shadows. 10 minutes later, Haijin triggered a small explosive device. It made a loud bang and flash of light, but caused no real damage. The aliens immediately turned toward the sound. Raising their weapons, while they were distracted, Barum took the second soldier. Then the third. By the time the remaining aliens realized they were being hunted, half their patrol was gone. Where are they? The patrol leader shouted in his own language, "Report!" Where are the others? But there was no answer. Minho was jamming their communications. They were alone in the forest with a predator they could not see or understand. The aliens began to panic. They fired their weapons at shadows, at trees, at anything that moved. Blue beams of light burned through the forest, but hit nothing except wood and snow. Baram took the fourth soldier while the others were shooting at ghosts. "This is impossible," the patrol leader screamed. "It's just an animal. How can one animal do this?" But Baram was not just any animal. He was a predator who had learned to use the forest as his weapon. Every tree was cover, every shadow was a hiding place. Every sound was information. The remaining aliens tried to retreat, but they were lost. In their panic, they had forgotten which way led back to their base. Baram took the fifth soldier as they stumbled through the darkness. The sixth soldier fell when he tried to climb a tree to escape. Baram followed him up, moving through the branches like a ghost. The seventh soldier made it almost to the river before the leopard caught him. The patrol leader was left alone, standing in a clearing with his weapon raised, turning in circles. As he tried to see his invisible enemy, "Show yourself," he screamed, "Fight me." Baram appeared from behind a tree, just for a moment. Long enough for the alien to see him, to understand what had been hunting his soldiers. The patrol leader raised his weapon, but his hands were shaking. The blue beam went wide, hitting nothing. Baram disappeared again. For 20 minutes, the alien stood in the clearing, waiting for death. His weapon moved back and forth, tracking shadows that might or might not be real. Finally, he could not take it anymore. He dropped his weapon and ran. Baram let him go, back at the research station. Jiwoo was listening to the patrol leader's terrified report on her radio equipment. "It's not possible," the alien was saying. "One creature killed 7. Trained soldiers, it moves like smoke, it sees everything. It knows everything." "Describe the creature," his commander replied. "Large, 4 legs, spotted fur, yellow eyes. It hunts alone, but it thinks like a whole army," Jiwoo translated for the others. He's telling his commander that Baram is some kind of supernatural being. They don't understand that he's just a very good hunter. Let them think it's supernatural," Young-soo said. "Fear is our best weapon now." That night, Daeho sat with Baram outside the research station. The leopard was cleaning his claws, as calm as if he had just caught a rabbit for dinner. "You're learning," Daeho said softly. "Every fight teaches you something new." Baram looked at him with those intelligent yellow eyes. The leopard made a soft sound in his throat, almost like he was agreeing. "They brought tanks and energy weapons," Daeho continued. "But they forgot that the best weapons are the ones your enemy never sees coming." In the distance, alien ships flew across the night sky, searching for an enemy they could not find or understand, but in the forest, a perfect predator was waiting. A predator who remembered every enemy, every weakness, every mistake. A predator who had learned that the greatest victory is the one that leaves your enemy too frightened to fight. The aliens stopped sending patrols after Baram killed the 8th one, for 3 weeks. The forest around the research station was quiet. No alien ships in the sky. No soldiers walking through the trees. Even their radio communications went silent in the area. "They're afraid," Jiwoo said, looking at her computer screen. "My intercepts show they've marked this entire region as hostile territory. They won't come within 50 kilometers of us." But Daeho knew this was just the calm before the storm. The aliens were not giving up. They were planning something bigger. His fears proved correct when new people began arriving at the research station. First came Yoonbai Kim, a former helicopter pilot who had escaped when her base was destroyed. She brought news from the outside world. "The resistance is growing," she said. "People everywhere are hearing about the ghost of Siberia. That's what they're calling Baram. Stories are spreading about how one leopard is holding off an entire alien army." Next came Donghae Park, a demolitions expert who had been fighting aliens in the mountains. He carried a backpack full of explosives, and a grin that never left his face. "I heard you have a cat that kills aliens," he said. "I want to meet this cat." When Donghae saw Baram, his grin got even bigger. "Beautiful," he said. "Absolutely beautiful. Do you know what we could do with a hunter like this and the right explosives?" More people kept coming. Tae Young-oh, a former medic. Kyung-soo Lim, a chemical engineer. By the end of the month, they had 15 people at the research station, but the biggest surprise came when Major Soo-jin Park herself arrived, I had to see this for myself, she said, shaking hands with Daeho. The alien communications are full of reports about this area. They're calling it the most dangerous place on Earth. What are they planning? Daeho asked. Sujin's face was serious. Something big. I intercepted orders for a massive operation. They're bringing in their heavy equipment. How heavy? Young-Soo asked. Titan-class assault tanks. I've never seen anything like them. Each one is the size of a building and armed with weapons that can level a city block. That night, Daeho sat with Barum by the leopard's enclosure. The big cat seemed to sense that something was coming. His ears were always moving, listening to sounds only he could hear. They're going to bring everything they have, Daeho said quietly. Tanks, soldiers, aircraft. How do we fight something like that? Barum looked at him with those intelligent yellow eyes. Then the leopard did something strange. He walked to the fence and used his claw to scratch marks in the wooden post. Daeho looked at the marks. They looked almost like a map, lines that could be paths through the forest, circles that could be hiding places. You've been planning, Daeho whispered. All this time, you've been thinking about how to fight them. The next morning, Jiwoo came running with her laptop. They're coming, she said, a massive convoy. 50 vehicles, including 3 Titan-class tanks. Young-Soo studied the maps. If those tanks reach the research station, we're finished. We need to stop them in the forest where their size works against them. How do we stop a tank the size of a building? Haijin asked. Kyung-Soo Lim raised his hand. I might have an idea. Those big tanks need cooling systems. Massive air intakes to keep their engines from overheating. If we could get something into those intakes. What kind of something? Dong Hyan asked. Chemical foam. It would expand inside the engine and block all the airflow. The tank would shut down in minutes. But how do we get close enough? Taeyang asked. Those tanks will be surrounded by soldiers. Everyone looked at Baram. The leopard was lying in the sun, but his ears were pointed toward them. He was listening to every word. He could do it, Daeho said slowly. If anyone could get that close without being seen, it's Barum. You're talking about sending a leopard to attack a tank, Yunbai said. That's insane. No, Daeho replied. That's Baram. He's been studying them for months. Learning their weaknesses, their patterns, their fears. He knows exactly how they think. Young-Soo was looking at the maps again. The convoy will have to come through Pine Valley. It's the only route big enough for those tanks. If we set up there, we could channel them into a killing ground, Dong Hyan finished. I like it. They spent 2 days preparing. Dong Hyan and Kyung-Soo made small containers of chemical foam that Barum could carry. Haijin set up explosives along the convoy route. Minho prepared to jam all alien communications, but the most important preparation was between Daeho and Baram. They practiced new signals. Hand movements that meant wait, attack, and retreat. They went over the plan again and again until Daeho was sure the leopard understood every detail. This is different from hunting patrols, Daeho explained. These tanks are huge and dangerous, but they're also slow and clumsy. Use that against them. Barum made that low sound in his throat. The sound that meant he understood. The sound that meant he was ready. On the 3rd day, the alien convoy entered Pine Valley from their hiding place on the ridge. Daeho watched through binoculars as the massive vehicles moved through the forest. The Titan-class tanks were even bigger than he had imagined. Each one crushed trees under its weight and left deep tracks in the ground. There, Young-Soo pointed, the lead tank. If we can stop that one, the others will be trapped behind it. Daeho gave Baram the signal to begin. The leopard disappeared into the forest like smoke. One moment he was there, the next he was gone. Daeho tracked Baram's progress by watching the alien soldiers. They were nervous, constantly looking over their shoulders. They had heard the stories about the ghost of Siberia. They knew something was hunting them, but they were looking for an enemy that attacked like they did. They expected weapons and explosions and direct confrontation. They were not prepared for a predator who moved like water and thought like a general. Baram reached the first tank without being seen. The leopard crouched in the shadows beneath the massive vehicle, studying its construction. He could see the air intake vents, just as Kyung-soo had described, but the tank was surrounded by soldiers. 20 aliens in full armor, all watching the forest for threats. Bahram waited. He had learned patience from 3 years of hunting in the wild. He could wait hours without moving, watching for the perfect moment to strike. The moment came when the tank stopped to navigate around a fallen tree. The soldiers spread out to check the area for threats. For just 30 seconds, there was a gap in their formation. Bahram moved. He flowed from shadow to shadow like liquid darkness. In one smooth motion, he leaped onto the tank, placed the chemical foam container into the air intake, and disappeared back into the forest. The soldiers never saw him. 60 seconds later, foam began pouring out of the tank's vents. The massive engine made grinding sounds, then stopped completely. "Tank 1 is down," Minho reported from his radio position. "They're trying to restart it, but the engine is dead." The alien commander was shouting orders. More soldiers poured out of the other vehicles, searching for an enemy they could not find, but Bahram was already moving toward the second tank. "He's not just attacking," Giwu said in amazement as she watched through her own binoculars. "He's using strategy. He knows that if he stops the first tank, the others can't move forward." The second tank fell 10 minutes later. Then the third dot in less than an hour. Bahram had single-handedly stopped the most powerful convoy the aliens had ever sent to Earth. From the ridge, Daeho watched alien soldiers running in panic through the forest. Their massive weapons were useless against an enemy they could not see or understand. "They brought tanks," Young-soo said with a smile. "But we brought something better." "What's that?" Yunbai asked. Daeho looked down at the chaos in the valley, then up at the sky where alien aircraft were circling helplessly. "We brought a leopard who doesn't forget," he said. "And now he's taught them what it means to be afraid." The alien ships came at dawn. Daeho woke to the sound of engines in the sky. Not the quiet hum of the smaller ships, but the deep roar of something massive. He ran outside and looked up to see the biggest alien vessel he had ever seen. It was the size of a city, dark against the morning sky. Smaller ships flew around it like insects around a giant beast. "Supreme Commander Vexthal has arrived," Zhuwu said, running out with her radio equipment. "I'm picking up his communications. He's here to personally destroy what he calls the primitive pest that has embarrassed the Empire." Bahram was already awake, standing at the fence of his enclosure. The leopard's yellow eyes were fixed on the sky, watching the alien ships with the same focus he used when hunting prey. "How many soldiers?" Young-soo asked. 500, Huwu replied. "Plus 20 tanks, 50 aircraft, and enough firepower to destroy a mountain." Darhayan laughed, but it was not a happy sound. "Well, we're definitely outnumbered." "Numbers don't matter," Daeho said quietly, not to Bahram. The alien army landed in the valley below the research station. Daeho watched through binoculars as hundreds of soldiers set up their equipment. The tanks formed a circle around a command center where Supreme Commander Vexthal was giving orders. Vexthal was different from the other aliens. He was taller, with golden markings on his armor and a crown-like device on his head. Even from a distance, Daeho could see the arrogance in the way he moved. "He thinks this will be easy," Sujin said. "He has no idea what he's dealing with." "Let's keep it that way," Daeho replied. The attack began at noon. Alien aircraft filled the sky, their weapons charging with blue light. The tanks moved forward in formation, crushing everything in their path. Soldiers advanced behind them, their armor gleaming in the sunlight. It looked unstoppable. It looked like the end of everything, but Daeho was not watching the army. He was watching Bahram. The leopard had left his enclosure and was moving through the forest with purpose. Not the random movement of a frightened animal, but the careful stalking of a predator who had a plan. "Where is he going?" Noonbai asked. Daeho studied the alien formation through his binoculars. Suddenly he understood. "He's not running away," Daeho said with amazement. "He's going after their leader." "That's impossible," Taeyong said. "Vexthal is in the center of 500 soldiers. Nothing could get through that many guards." "Bahram?" Isn't nothing, Deho replied. He's been studying them for months. He knows how they think, how they move, how they make mistakes. In the valley below, the alien army was advancing steadily. Their weapons fired at the research station, turning buildings into smoke and fire. It looked like complete victory for the Vorthek Empire, but something was wrong. Soldiers on the edges of the formation began disappearing. Not all at once, but one by one? A guard here, a scout there. Each time, the remaining soldiers would rush to investigate, but they found nothing, except claw marks in the dirt. He's picking off the outer guards, young Su observed, working his way toward the center. Supreme Commander Vexthal noticed the disappearances. His voice echoed across the valley as he shouted orders in the alien language. He's telling his soldiers to stay in formation, Jiwu translated. He thinks it's a human trick, but the disappearances continued. Each time a soldier vanished, the others became more nervous. They started firing at shadows, at trees, at anything that moved. They're losing discipline, Sujin noted. Fear is spreading through their ranks. Vexthal became angry. He stepped out of his command center and began giving orders directly to his troops. He pointed at the forest and shouted what sounded like threats. That was his mistake. The moment Vexthal left the safety of his command center, Barum struck. The leopard appeared from nowhere, flying through the air like a golden shadow. He landed on Vexthal's back, his claws digging into the alien's armor. Vexthal screamed and spun around, trying to throw off his attacker. But Baram held on, using every muscle in his powerful body to stay attached to the alien commander. Impossible! Vexthal shouted in English. You are just an animal. I am a supreme commander of the Vorthek Empire. But Barum was not just any animal. He was a predator who had learned that the most dangerous enemy is often the one who thinks he cannot be. Defeated, the alien soldiers raised their weapons, but they could not fire without hitting their commander. Vexthal continued spinning and fighting, his golden armor becoming scratched and dented under Barum's claws. Finally, the leopard released his grip and dropped to the ground. For a moment, he and Vexthal faced each other in the center of the alien army. Vexthal drew a weapon from his belt. It was bigger than the rifles his soldiers carried, glowing with deadly energy. Now you die, primitive creature, he said, but as he raised the weapon, Barum did something unexpected. The leopard sat down and began cleaning his paws, as calm as if he were back at the research station. Vexthal hesitated, confused by this behavior. In that moment of hesitation, he made his second mistake. He looked around at his army and saw something that shocked him. Half his soldiers were gone. Not dead, just gone. Vanished into the forest while he had been fighting the leopard. Where are my troops? He demanded. His remaining soldiers looked at each other nervously. They had been so focused on their commander's fight that they had not noticed their comrades disappearing one by one. The ghost of Siberia, one of them whispered. There is no ghost, Vexthal screamed. It's just one animal. But sir, another soldier said, if one animal can do this to us, what does that say about this planet? What does it say about the creatures that live here? For the first time, doubt appeared in Vexthal's eyes. He looked at Barum, who was still calmly cleaning his paws, and then at his broken army. This is not possible, he said quietly. We have the most advanced technology in the galaxy. We have conquered 100 worlds. Barum finished cleaning his paws and looked directly at Vexthal. The leopard's yellow eyes held no anger, no hatred. Only the calm confidence of a perfect predator who knew he had already won. Retreat, Vexthal said suddenly. All units, retreat to the ships. Sir? One of his officers asked in confusion. I said retreat, Vexthal shouted. This world is not worth the cost. Mark it as too dangerous for colonization. As the alien army fled toward their ships, Deho and his team came down from the ridge. They found Barum sitting in the middle of the abandoned command center, surrounded by scattered alien equipment. You did it, Deho said, kneeling down to scratch behind the leopard's ears. You beat an entire army. Barum purred and rubbed against Deho's hand. To anyone watching, he looked like nothing more than a large house cat asking for attention. How? Yunbai asked, "How did one leopard defeat 500 soldiers?" "He didn't defeat them," Daiho replied. "He taught them something more powerful than defeat. He taught them fear. He showed them that no matter how advanced their technology is, there will always be something on this planet that they don't understand and can't control." That night, as the alien ships disappeared into space, Sujin made contact with resistance cells around the world. "The Vorthic Empire has declared Earth too dangerous for colonization," she reported. "They're withdrawing all forces. The invasion is over." Daiho sat outside the research station with Bahram lying beside him. The leopard's breathing was slow and peaceful, like he was just an ordinary animal taking a nap. "They brought tanks," Daiho said quietly. "Energy weapons. Ships that could destroy cities. They thought technology was everything." He looked up at the stars where the alien ships had vanished. "But I brought a panther who didn't forget, who remembered every enemy, every weakness, every moment of fear he had ever caused. And in the end, memory was stronger than any weapon." They had. Bahram opened one yellow eye and looked at Daiho. "The leopard made that low sound in his throat? The one that sounded like agreement. Then he closed his eye and went back to sleep, dreaming perhaps of forests and prey and the perfect hunt that had saved the world."